Hi guys, welcome to my video. I know that the options are endless when you're searching YouTube for your makeup tips and tricks. So I'm excited that you are joining me today. My name is Heather and I'm with Makeup by Heather B. And I'm so excited to share this video with you because if you're anything like me, eyeshadow sometimes can seem super overwhelming and all these people are telling you different tips and tricks and it's so hard to keep up with. So I wanted to do a video for a lot of you guys who have requested. I wanted to answer some of the questions that you guys have sent me, just asking for different things that you can do for your eyeshadow to make it look even better. So hopefully this video isn't too overwhelming. It's just some really easy, basic tips and tricks on your eyeshadow, okay? So I've gotten a lot of questions from some of you that I want to answer in this video, and then I also want to just add in some of my personal favorite tips and tricks for your eyeshadow and different looks. So let's get started with the first question. Why is eyeshadow primer important? So if you watch any of my videos, you'll always notice that I use eyeshadow primer, always, always, always. And the reason for this is it keeps your eyeshadow on, it keeps it from creasing, it helps kind of even out the eyelid, the texture of the eyelid, any discoloration you may have on the eyelid, so that you have a really nice blank canvas to work on when you're applying your eyeshadow. One of my favorites, which you've also seen if you've watched my other videos, is MAC. This is their paint pot in Painterly. This one is just a flesh tone matte shade. The reason why you want a flesh tone color when you're picking your eyeshadow primer is because if you were to do something that has color to it or even has shimmer to it, it's gonna kind of lay that shimmery base down, and then anything you put on top of it is gonna turn into shimmer, and then your eyeshadow won't have as much definition and it can get kind of muddy looking. So make sure whenever you're choosing your eyeshadow primer, almost every single cosmetic line has one, that it's just more of a flesh tone and it's more of a matte shade, something that will match your actual skin tone, okay? So my next topic is a lot of women will ask like, okay, what steps do you do your eyeshadow in? And a lot of women will do one color all over their entire eye before they go back through and add in other colors. Not that that's wrong or that that's a bad thing, but you'll notice if you do like one light shimmery color all over, go back with your crease color, corner color, whatever else you're adding, those colors are going to start to blend together and you're not going to have a lot of definition in your eye makeup. So what I always recommend is doing the crease first and then go back with a lid color and then a separate highlight color. But I think that your shadow kind of has a little bit more definition to it when you don't just do one base color on all over to start. Okay, so whenever you go in to buy new eyeshadows, it's always so fun because you can sit there, play with them on your hand. Most eyeshadows are eye-catching because of the shimmer they have or the glitter. So that is kind of one of my other big tips. So when you're looking to buy eyeshadows, you want to make sure that those palettes are so awesome. They're great space savers. This one is the Morphe one, and it has a ton of awesome eyeshadows in it. But what you want to do when you are looking at buying a palette is make sure that they have some matte shades in there. And if you don't know what I mean by matte, basically any shadow that doesn't have glitter or shimmer in it. Because the shimmer eyeshadows are really fun and that's typically like what our eyes are drawn to. But you do want to balance out your eyeshadow so that you have some matte shades in there. They may not be as fun looking, but you definitely want to have them in your eyeshadow palette just so you can create a look that's not too muddy and shimmery looking. So this one, like I said, is by Morphe and it's their 35N palette. So it's actually all matte eyeshadows. So no shimmer, no glitter or anything like that. And where I usually use my matte shades, depending on depending on your preference, some people like to have matte shadows, some people like to have more shimmer. So I always, always, always recommend using a matte shade in the crease of your eye. And if you're not familiar with what the crease is, it's basically this fold right in here. And the reason why I use matte in there is because if you were to take a really shimmery color in there, it's going to kind of turn everything muddy and not have that definition that we're talking about getting with your eyeshadow. So make sure, even though the shimmery eyeshadows are super fun and they really catch your eye, be sure that you are using some matte shades. If you, like I said, this is a great palette from Morphe. I mean, you have every single matte shade that you could ever want in this palette. If you're someone that has more texture on the eyelid, so if you're worried about, you know, fine lines or wrinkles showing, you want to stick away from doing anything that's too light and shimmery, because that's going to even just show the texture more. So hopefully that helps you with your eyeshadow, just keeping it a little bit more defined, okay? Another thing is that you want to blend. So blending is huge when you're working on your eyes. You never want to see that really harsh line. Now with my eyes right now, because they are so dramatic, you can still see where the dark stops, but you want it to slowly fade all the way up to your brow bone. And how you can do that, I mean, obviously if you've watched some of my videos and tutorials, you know, I kind of will explain it each time, but in case you haven't, some of my favorite blending brushes are by MAC. The 224 brush is awesome. This one's the Duo Fiber. It's a 286 brush, and it's fluffy and kind of rounded. So these are super important to have in your makeup bag for blending purposes. Now you can go through and add some crease color to blend it, or no product at all, but this is a great brush just to really get into that crease area and soften any of those harsh lines after you apply your eyeshadow, okay? So these brushes I love. I also love the 217 by MAC. This one's still fluffy, so it's gonna help blend as well too. But blending is a huge, huge part of just kind of making your eyeshadow look softer and not have just a harsh line that you see where the dark completely stops. So these are awesome for blending, awesome for applying the crease color. They have a lot of other multi-uses as well too. So make sure that they don't have to be MAC brushes, but in your makeup kit that you have something fluffy and even kind of rounded. And whenever I am blending, I always hold my brush back a little bit farther and, you know, very lightly go over my colors. I don't hold my brush here and push, because that's going to put more of a firmer pressure on the eye, and it's not going to help to blend that out. You want it to be super soft, and you want to kind of hold it from afar so that it's nice and blended, okay? So those are my favorite tricks for blending. One of the things that I hate the most is when I would do my makeup and I would want to do a really fun smoky eye. And I just finished my face makeup, it was looking bomb, and all of a sudden now I'm doing a smoky eye and I have fallout everywhere. And that stinks, because now you have to go back and wipe it off, and then you've got black all over your face and you have to redo your face makeup. It's super annoying. So one of the best things I've learned being in the makeup artistry world is to do your eyes first. I know it seems super simple, but a lot of us do our face makeup and then our eyes, because it just seems to make sense to go in that direction. But I love doing my eyes first, and if you've watched my tutorials, you obviously know that, and you see me get really messy with my eyeshadow, and you see why I do my eyes first. But I always encourage my clients, do your eyes first, get really, really messy with it, and then you can just go back and clean it up with a wipe or a Q-tip with some eye makeup remover. And then that way you're not wasting time having to really clean up after your face, or after your eye makeup's kind of falling. So always doing the eyes first is a great, great tip to use, no matter if you're doing natural or smoky eye. I think it's a great tip just to kind of, you know, get your eyeshadow on and then finish everything else and not have to mess anything else up. The other thing I would recommend is for your eyeliner. So eyeliner can be such a tricky thing. A lot of my clients will do this and like try to get that fine line, and it's super hard to get a really nice fine line. So what do you do? What do you do if you have this pencil that is just like making you cry as you're putting on because it's super dry? I use a couple different eyeliners. I use pencil, I use gel, I use marker eyeliners. So really the preference of eyeliner is up to you. If you're someone who is feeling a little bit more brave, a gel eyeliner with an angled brush, something like this is the MAC 266. That is great because it has a really pretty finish to it. It almost looks like a liquid, but it's a gel. It stays on really well. It's waterproof. And I almost think that once you get the hang of it, it's a little bit easier to apply and to get that nice fine line with your brush than it is with a pencil. So I like using the gel liner, and if you've watched some of my previous tutorials, you'll see me use it in there. So if you're wanting more of a detailed description on how to put it on, you can go in my other tutorials. If you're someone who's like, no fuss, no muss, I like a pencil, it's easy, I can throw it in my makeup bag. Pencils are great. You want to make sure that whenever you get, it's a little bit smoother. If it's too hard and it's skipping, that either means that it could be dried out and it's time to get rid of it, or you just need to get a pencil that's a little bit softer, or you could even warm it up a little bit on the back of your hand to kind of get the product warm so that it's easier to spread on the eye. And then what I typically do is I'll look in a mirror and I just close one eye and try to keep one open, which for some of you that may be a challenge. It was a challenge for me at first. But I just try to close one eye and keep one eye open, start from one corner and just work my way to the inner corner and then go back and fill in as you need. It doesn't have to be a perfect line, and I literally don't try to get a perfect line. I just go in short little strokes until I get to the inner corner of my eye. Now, if you make a mistake or if your eyeliner ends up a little bit higher, that's when this little brush comes in handy, the 266 by MAC. You can go back over your eyeliner and kind of smudge it out a little bit. This will also keep your eyeliner from transferring. So if you have an issue with your eyeliner at the end of the day ending up here, take a brush, an angled brush, and smudge it out a little bit. That will help kind of keep it from transferring as well onto the skin. Whoops. And then also a marker eyeliner, those are super easy to use as well too. They're a little intimidating because it feels like once you get it on there, it's on. But you want to make sure that you just get one that has a little bit of a finer point to it. I just bought one from L'Oreal at Target and it works really, really well. I just go really slow with it. So really it's your preference on texture and type of eyeliner that you want to do. But hopefully those are just some tips and tricks that will help you when you are applying your eyeliner. Okay, another big issue that a lot of people I hear complain about is that their makeup falls or transfers throughout the day. So halfway throughout the day, they feel like they've got those raccoon eyes. We all know, we've all been there where we've had that mascara. You look in the mirror and you're like, oh my gosh, like why didn't anyone tell me? And you're trying to blend it out. So what can you do to help keep that from happening? One of the tricks that I like is to take some translucent powder. You can do any translucent powder you want. This is just a clear, it looks white but doesn't come off white. And I like to just take something kind of fluffier and just apply a little bit of this underneath of the eye area. And that's gonna help keep anything from transferring. The other thing I like to do that for is your concealer sometimes will settle in those fine lines that we all have underneath of the eye area. We just have that texture. So sometimes concealer can settle in those lines. This is also gonna keep your concealer from settling in those lines and from you feeling like, oh my gosh, I look like I'm 10 years older because I've got these cracks in my skin from all this makeup. So translucent powder underneath the eye area is a great trick. Doesn't have to be any fancy brand or anything like that. You could literally, any powder is gonna work great, but it'll just kind of set it just a little bit for you. And it's brightening as well too. All right, so one of my last tips is when you're doing your mascara. I know I've done a video on this before, but if you haven't seen it, I'm just gonna kind of fill you in on the know of mascara. When you apply your mascara, it's always a bummer when you go to put it on and you get it all over your pretty eyeshadow that you just put on. So what I recommend doing is looking into a mirror and tip your head back and then go through and put your mascara on. If you look into a mirror like this, you have all that space that you could possibly get your mascara on. When you tip your head back quite a bit, it gets it all out of the way. So just go a little bit slower, and if you just tip your head back and look down into the mirror, that's a great way to keep your mascara from getting all over and creating a mess. So those are some of my favorite tips and tricks that I use as a professional makeup artist on myself every day and also on my clients. So hopefully that was helpful for you. I would love to hear any of your questions that you may have, and we can kind of address them in a future video. So please comment with your questions below. I would love to hear from you guys, and thanks so much for joining us. Have a good day.